Satan from Newcastle, England, was formed in 1979 with Russ Tippins and Steve Ramsey on guitar. They'd be joined by drummer Andy Reid and eventually bassist Graeme English, as well as vocalist Trevor Robinson. This lineup would record a demo in 1981, appropriately titled The First Demo.
Looking in the shadows, looking for a kill. Unsuspecting victims, dying at his will. A lot of all before him. Darkness is his home. No one there to find him. They don't go out alone.
The demo is already pretty great, starting off with the future classic, Kiss of Death.
When the night is young, he leaves his tomb. But it's life for him, he needs so soon. Poised in silence, in your final breath, he waits to deliver the kiss of death.
Despite the rather dark band name, the music is fairly straightforward, with side 1 showcasing pretty traditional heavy metal in the vein of bands like Angel Witch. Then we get a little more variety on side 2, including Oppression with an early Iron Maiden vibe, followed by The Executioner, which starts to explore some thrash territory.
So famous and dark. God help this man if he misses his mark. The executioner never thinks twice. Guilty or innocent, they all pay the price. Pay the price.
The following year, they'd bring on a couple of Ians, including drummer Ian McCormick and vocalist Ian Swift. This lineup would record the band's second demo, Into the Fire. I won't spend too much time on this one since virtually every track on it appears on the Superior debut album, but it's still a fun listen if you're curious. The only track to not appear on Satan's first full-length album is Pull the Trigger. After this demo, Ian Swift would leave to be replaced by vocalist Brian Ross, and Satan would also bring on new drummer Sean Taylor, as they got picked up by Roadrunner Records to record their debut album in 1983, Court in the Act. The production has definitely taken a step up here, but I think the addition of Brian Ross really solidifies the band's sound. His unique delivery and a touch of dungeon-esque reverb give the vocals an almost incantation feel, yet he still has no trouble hitting those high notes. The band sounds way tighter, and there's just more power and energy overall compared to the demos. Also, while the guitar playing was great on the demos as well, it seems even more effective here, with some awesome, unrelenting riffs and phenomenal solos. Every track on here is a banger, and again, more up-tempo than you might expect based on the band name. Aside from the early thrash riffs and heavy melodic songwriting, there's also a healthy dose of proto-speed metal included, especially on tracks like Break Free. And again, I can't stress enough how killer the solos are. We also get 2 instrumentals on Court in the Act, including The Ritual from the Into the Fire demo. It's a badass composition built largely around those early speed and thrash metal aspects, even though those terms didn't really exist yet, and it was still about a year before the thrash metal movement would take hold over in America. The second instrumental is Dark Side of Innocence, which provides a brief change of pace with a dark classical feel and is a nice transition to the excellent album closer, Alone in the Dock. While Court in the Act has since become a highly revered album, and hardcore metal fans of the time were largely enthusiastic about the release, including a glowing review from the indie British publication Metal Forces magazine, other European journalists were less favorable.
The only 2 territories that we were known in at the time were in Holland and in England. Kerrang gave it a bad review, and Oddshock, the main magazine in Holland, gave it a very mediocre review. And then we didn't see any sales, and we thought we were doing something wrong. So.
Kerrang absolutely panned it.
Yeah.
It basically said that this album is at best mediocre, boring riffs, not much going on, forget it, don't waste your money, don't buy it.
But it also begged the question of whether or not these reviewers even gave the album a chance, since many people wrote the band off based on their name alone.
We always had problems with it, especially being associated with black metal and death metal and stuff like that, when we're nothing really like that.
We were ridiculed in the press. Reviewers were more interested in making a joke out of the name. We were poleaxed by the abject failure of Court and the Act. We really took it to heart. It broke the band up, really. We thought nobody wanted to hear what we had to offer back then. We were different to all of the other new wave of British heavy metal bands at the time. It wasn't until later that we heard about a lot of American bands and fans liking the album, and the same thing elsewhere in Europe. Following the release of Court and the Act, Brian would leave and resurrect Blitzkrieg, a band he'd been with before Satan. The rest of the band would be joined by Lou Taylor, who'd had a brief stint in Satan already between Trevor Robinson and Ian Swift. Lou had then been in a band called Blind Fury, which featured Kevin Hayborn and other members of Angel Witch. That version of the band had only recorded a demo in 1984 and had since gone on to reform Angel Witch. So in order to avoid using the name Satan, Lou suggested they take the name Blind Fury. They did, and this version of the band released one album, Out of Reach, in 1985. Overall, this is still a very good album, although there is a different feel to it than Court and the Act. Lou is more of a traditional rock singer than Brian for one thing, but there also seems to be more of a fun vibe to the music. I suppose the new material now is more into what we call contact rock and roll, which means putting more fun into heavy metal instead of all this black death, killing people, and devils. We want to get some life into metal. Music isn't about death, it's about life. Out of Reach will still be heavy like the last album, but with Lou's singing, it seems to give it more quality. Really, we would like to think of it as a fresh start. Although we will still try to keep hold of the kids who were into us on our last album, I think we will just broaden our audience with a new name and a different approach. Like I said, I like this album, but I think it's also fair to say that it doesn't hit as hard as Court and the Act, with a decidedly commercial approach to the songwriting. That said, the guitar playing is still a highlight on Out of Reach, and the solos continue to be outstanding. In fact, this album really shines most during the instrumental sections, with some very cool riffs and guitar passages. But that's not to take anything away from Lou though, who reminds me a bit of Russ North from Clovenhoof, and provides some decently powerful vocals. Following Out of Reach, the band would let Lou go and revert back to the name Satan, this time with vocalist Michael Jackson. They'd put together a demo in 1986 which would get them picked up by Steamhammer Records, who released the demo as an EP called Into the Future. This short EP is pretty great, and a return to the more aggressive style of music you'd expect from the band. Michael is a good fit here too, with a vocal style reminiscent of Wasp's Blackie Lawless. For me, side 2 is even better than side 1 on this one, and includes the track Fuck You, which is an instrumental except for the title line, and The Iceman, an energetic rocker that closes out the EP on a high note. This lineup would then put out a full-length album on Steamhammer titled Suspended Sentence. This album is a hard-hitting return to form for Satan, and while it doesn't surpass Court in the Act for me, it is thrashier and edgier, and it's definitely more in-your-face than Out of Reach. And Michael's raspy, growly voice fits in nicely with the more aggressive style. They'd also start to explore somewhat more complex songwriting here, with even more elaborate and interesting guitar passages. The best track on the album, though, for me, is Avalanche of a Million Hearts, which starts off with a ballad-like feel.
Children cried for comfort, confusion in their eyes, awoken by the soldier, blinded by his side.
And it maintains that energy and emotion as it builds into a galloping power thrash style.
Bodies go honey leaders, we will fall. The river of people in their mighty war. So we must
like this album a lot. It's heavy on the thrash and speed riffs, but there's a lot of creativity mixed in, with some excellent guitar playing and compelling compositions. Unfortunately, returning to the old band name also brought back the same problems, and they'd only last as Satan for one album. When we supported German band Running Wild on our tour to promote Suspended Sentence, it sort of happened then. We would sometimes turn up at venues, and religious groups would be burning our shirts and protesting that a band called Satan were in town. So we decided to take a change in direction and change the name.
The silly thing about it is we never wrote any lyrics about like Satanism or anything. We're all just sort of life based on life lyrics, you know. We weren't into devil worship or anything, but we just had this name.
And so, in 1988, Satan would become Pariah. Musically, we didn't seem to fit in. It seemed like whatever we did didn't seem to fit in. We were different compared to everyone else. We felt like that, and the word pariah seemed to suit exactly what we were. Still on Steamhammer, they'd release The Kindred, their first album under the new name, in the summer of the same year.
You infest our streets, nobody safe. You're a social disease. The disease is bad, but realistically it should be there. No more living see. I feel humanity. Infanticide, job, tradition, and living should expect to die.
The Kindred, which was almost the new band name, builds on Satan's aggressive sound and is even more thrash than Suspended Sentence. Overall, it's a solid album with a mix of thrash and speed riffs supporting Michael's gritty vocals, although it seems to focus more on abrasive guitar work than strong hooks or melodies.
Foreign bodies in command. Foreign bodies take the house. Foreign bodies will rebel. Dead to the infidel, not break the sacred law. Dead to the infidel.
But that's not necessarily a complaint, considering how fantastic the guitar playing is throughout the album. If I remember rightly, there was a lot of heavier thrash coming out that could have influenced The Kindred a little, and we wanted to just experiment. It wasn't a favorite album of mine at all, although it was received well by metal fans. The Kindred is somewhat more predictable from a song structure standpoint than Suspended Sentence, and a lot of the songs have kind of a similar feel to me. But there's a tougher attitude to the presentation, which is cool, and plenty of energy to keep things interesting. So for me, The Kindred ends up being a very easy album to listen to, but much like Out of Reach, I find myself drawn more to the general guitar playing and atmosphere than any specific track. follow the Kindred up with Pariah's second album, Blaze of Obscurity, in 1989.
Is it an act of compassion or a crime to end the life of a friend who wants to die? Was I my body a sign of mind? The passion to stay alive. It finds its strength to look me in the eye.
This one is more up my alley with more of a melodic direction combined with the aggressive, powerful riffs.
Take this life from me. Don't make me live. Die a friend to let me die. Take this pain. Don't make me live. Missionary of mercy, help me die. Missionary of mercy.
This is definitely my favorite of the Pariah albums and a great blend of speed and melody for more of a power thrash feel than the straight up thrash direction of the Kindred.
Oh, don't worry about a thing. Don't even try to sing. Your time is just a stumbling block. Subjects in the puppet regime. When you're subjects in the puppet regime. Puppet regime.
And of course, it goes without saying that the guitar playing on here is absolutely a highlight, with consistently stellar solos from Russ and Steve. Plus, Blaze of Obscurity also finally got us our first Satan music video, more or less, with the title track.
I dream streets paved with gold. I dream comforts when I grow old. Now it's daybreak, clearly I wait, alone and cold with hunger stole.
We see the guys playing with images of city buildings being projected behind them for some reason, and Mike is dressed like an extra from A Clockwork Orange. After a ballad-like verse, the track kicks into high gear with a thrashy chorus.
No bell around your neck, but you're a weapon to the human race. Just like Pariah, you have no name. Living in a place of obscurity, these colors to survive the day. You're in a blaze of obscurity.
Again, I'm not sure what they're trying to say with the cityscape projections, but it's a cool track, and it's just nice to see the band rocking out on video for a change. But unfortunately, Blaze of Obscurity wouldn't do especially well, and the band would break up once again. It wasn't the band, it was me. At the time, I wasn't happy with the lack of record company help and no real quality management. I felt Blaze was our best work and it just wasn't being promoted the way it should have been, and with no decent support tours coming our way. Too many record company promises with little action. So I took a short break and decided I didn't want to pursue making another album. Sad times, but life moves on. And so did the boys, so all was well. The rest of the band did move on, with Steve Ramsey and Graeme English forming Skyclad, and Sean Taylor continuing on with Blitzkrieg, who he'd also been playing drums for. However, in 1997, Steve, Russ, and Graeme would all reform Pariah, along with Ian McCormick back on drums and Alan Hunter from the band Tyson Dog on vocals. This lineup of Pariah, which I could find no pictures of, independently released Unity in 1997.
There was a time when we could not rely on daytime to remain intact. Now looking back, it all seems so absurd. Balance counterfeit instead of words.
Overall, Unity is just okay for me. It certainly has the aggressive riffs you'd expect with a mix of thrash, traditional metal, and even touches of prog. But the songs just don't reach the level of other Satan or Pariah releases in my opinion. Alan's vocals are fine, but do little to really stand out. And there's kind of a late 90s feel throughout the album, which is to be expected, but I just find this to be one of the lesser albums from the group.
Don't tell us what you are, but who? Try so hard, but always fail. You might be something, but to know we're there. Unless you're one of us, you'll never make the grade. If you're one of us, you got it made.
And while some of the guitar work feels a bit restrained compared to other albums, there is some good stuff on it, mostly in the form of some sweet solos. Unity, ironically, would be the end of Pariah, and the guys would break up completely until 2004, when they'd get an offer to play the Wacken Festival. The original Court and the Act lineup would reform for the gig, except for Sean Taylor, who'd suffered a knee injury. So Blitzkrieg's drummer at the time, Phil Brewis, would fill in. They'd all go back to their other bands for a while until they were eventually talked into playing the Keep It True Festival in 2011, where they were shocked to find out just how popular their older material had become. I think we were just totally out of the loop. We're not the same as we were when we were young kids, following new bands and stuff like that. We had no idea that this style was becoming popular again, just no idea at all. And we got such a shock when we did Keep It True, the reaction of the crowd. We did a signing session before the show and it took an hour and a half. It was almost like we did it for the whole hall. Every person had a Satan shirt or a Satan album to sign. It was unbelievable. Encouraged by the massive support and growing fan base, the band decided to record a third Satan album, Life Sentence, released 26 years after Suspended Sentence.
They say there's no future for me. Locked in the tower I'll be until the day the hangman calls my name. The gallows won't stand tall until it's time to die.
And damn, for anyone looking for a true sequel to Court in the Act, here it is. Released on Listenable Records, Life Sentence is a full-on return to the style from Satan's debut album, with power, melody, and speed.
The idea was that it would be, we wanted it to sound like it was the follow-up album to Court in the Act. We had to sort of put our heads back in time a little bit, and
For a couple of months before we started writing all the songs and everything, I had Caught in the Act on my car stereo, and that's all I listened to get my head into that mode, so that I was thinking that way, and it kind of helped.
And the return of Brian Ross is the final ingredient to the mix that makes Life Sentence the best Satan album under any name in 30 years. He sounds exactly the same, and his voice just complements the music perfectly.
You make me into whatever I am. For every single line, the baby's yours. So bring it on to your worst, my ex-friend. I'll surrender, but only by force. I'll never yield. I'll never give it to you. I'll never yield. This siege mentality's all down to you.
Plus, the solos are as awesome as ever, with outstanding guitar work from Russ and Steve. Life Sentence is solid from beginning to end and is packed with aggressive riffs and creative songwriting. But my favorite track on here is probably Testimony.
No more subterfuge, no more pretense. There's not much to offer in my defense. I've got a path, it's true what I will stay. I have nothing to say. Nothing but the truth. The truth, the whole truth. Nothing but the truth.
Pre-production was a lot of rehearsing. When it came to going in the studio, it took like 1 or 2 takes to put these songs down because we knew them so well and played them so well together. The most important thing is doing the work beforehand instead of going in the studio and thinking you're gonna create this gem on the spur of the moment and thinking, whatever, you can fix it in the studio. The whole album was played virtually live. That's the way we put it together.
These are my final words, and this is my one last testimony. I speak nothing but the truth this day.
Overall, Life Sentence really does feel like a lost Satan album from the 80s, and it ended up being a triumphant return of the classic band, who'd never really went away. Satan would follow up this successful return with their 4th album, Atom by Atom, in 2015.
In the beginning, God left the human race to evolve in our own time. But now the time is running low. Where did evolution go? We crossed the line. Somehow we got trying to lose all our soul. Where did it go? Where did it go?
This is another super solid entry and continues in the thrash meets new wave of British heavy metal direction.
Goodbye. Farewell evolution. The slow painful death. Degeneration. Farewell.
wouldn't say this one is quite as epic as Life Sentence, but it's still pretty great. If Life Sentence is a 10, Atom by Atom is a high 8 or a 9, so it's pretty negligible. It seemed that this new direction, which was essentially going back to their first initial direction heard on their debut album, was working, and the band was finally getting the recognition they deserved with offers to play shows around the world. We're all working full time, so it's a bit crazy trying to fit it all in. So far, we managed to do everything we've been offered, and it's been brilliant. All the things that we dreamed of when we were kids, when we made Court in the Act, we're sort of fulfilling them all now. It was our dream to go to Japan because all the live albums that we used to listen to, and so many albums were all recorded live in Japan. We used to be like, wow, imagine what it would be like to go to Japan. And now we've been to Japan, which was crazy. Coming to the States and doing a tour, we never thought that would happen. None of us had actually done it with any of the other bands that we've been in either. And for it to be so successful was another crazy thing. And then South America and a lot of the other places in Europe we've never played, especially Scandinavia, it's all been so much fun and a dream come true. But they do seem to make more room for some modern touches here, especially on the excellent closing track, The Fall of Persephone.
All hope is now extinguished, a losing battle fought. The planet's finest minds enlisted, but every plan fell short. 70 miles of ice and snow, bearing down at speed. As we await the final impact, may God have mercy, please.
It starts off fairly straightforward, but then goes into an elaborate bridge with some proggy touches and a spoken narration section.
Helplessly, hopelessly, humanity awaits the fall of Persephone. Across the globe, billions fall to their knees and beseech their God to save them from approaching doom.
And then it wraps up with a passionate, epic ending packed with speedy thrash riffing.
The end of humanity. The fall of Persephone. The end of humanity. The fall of Persephone.
At this point, Satan were doing so well and were so in demand that it was time to step up to a bigger record label, and so they'd sign with Metal Blade Records for their 5th album, Cruel Magic, in 2018.
The elders returned a man to die before he fell. Something would have to be changed. Eliminate the maniacs who sent the world to hell. To save us in the present day.
With Metal Blade Records behind it, Cruel Magic got even more promotion and support, including 2 official Satan music videos, starting with the Doomsday Clock, which is pretty much just a performance video with the band rocking out in black and white.
Man must interrupt the pure hands of fate. We must stop the doomsday clock before it's too late. Time after time, Lord, we tried to keep annihilation at bay, to engineer a way to survive. Now we stand on the brink of doomsday.
But the second video for Into the Mouth of Eternity basically got a whole short film, opening with a woman being chased through the woods by a couple of hooded dudes. They catch her, rough her up a bit, and tie her up to take her to the Judge, the Satan mascot who'd appeared on all of the Satan album covers. The Judge drowns the woman, I guess, or tries to, but the woman grabs a sharp piece of debris and stabs the Judge right in the docket. She tries to hide again under the cover of terrible lighting, but is eventually caught. This time she's tied up and sacrificed, which somehow brings forth a pumpkin head looking demon thing. Cruel Magic is another very good album overall and delivers exactly what you'd expect from Satan at this point. Some tracks stood out to me a little more than others though, with my favorite being Legion's Hellbound.
Legions facing the sea. Legions, stop us all we. Legions, recklessly hellbound. The day of the overlord is now.
Unfortunately, due to the COVID pandemic, the tour to promote the album was cancelled. However, it did give the band more time to work on their sixth and most recent album, 2022's Earth Infernal.
In your mind hangs a picture of yourself, it's the man that you wanted to be. There were times when you'd stop to admire the fine strokes of a confident hand and its honesty.
What can I say? It's another great album by a band with seemingly endless riffs and catchy melodies.
The brain is corrupted. It's consuming your mind, devouring itself in each principle you left behind. Your refugees burning, burning. Kill this fire now, burning into your soul. Are you still invincible now?
My favorite of these newer Satan albums is still Life Sentence, but they're all pretty close. On one hand, you could say that none of them have done much to progress the band's sound, but it's also like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
The blood ran deep into the virgin soil. Their blood ran deep. Common blood and royal.
Currently, I'd say that every album with the name Satan on it is pretty freaking great, and with the band still going strong, hopefully we're due for another one soon. For now, here's your Satan homework. Court in the Act from 1983, the Into the Future EP from 1986, Suspended Sentence from 1987, Life Sentence from 2013, Atom by Atom from 2015, Cruel Magic from 2018, and Earth Infernal from 2022. For extra credit, I do think Out of Reach from 1985 is pretty good. It's actually the only album out of all of these that I had growing up, and it just never rose above an occasional listen for me. But still, it is worth checking out. As well as The Kindred from 1988 and Blaze of Obscurity from 1989. Both are pretty great thrash albums, but I'd still personally put all of the Satan albums over these. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look back at Satan, a fantastic new wave of British heavy metal band that went through more than the usual obstacles of breaking into the international scene. And there's no denying that they finally have. Let me know what your favorite Satan songs and albums are and where the Blind Fury and Pariah albums fall for you. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.